Hi there, Billy Earl here on Eastern Shore Politics. Michael Lankford is our guest today, and we're going to talk about this raging debate of downtown and whether or not density, whether or not parking, whether or not social services are enhanced or not enhanced by some of the plans that are being made for the downtown area. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak with us.
Thank you
I
for having me.
appreciate that. What are your thoughts on this plan?
Sure. And specifically in reference to the proposals that are being looked at around density right now with Salisbury Town Center LLC,
Yeah.
Which is a company owned by Brad Gillis, who's also you have Gillis Gilkerson and others such similar companies. So those people are developers locally. We have a lot of different people doing this in our area. That we have a lot of development going on. You have like D.R. Horton that's building like 200 units in like less than 2 years in our area, and so a lot of
by my house.
And a lot of times in this debate, people are presenting like as though we do have we have 2% vacancy rate in our area for the housing market, which is just basically there's not a lot of extra housing, right? And we are short on supply. Because of that pressure on people and because of people paying attention to try and work within this and their good intentions, there's a lot of people that are so sometimes narrowly focused that they're kind of missing the forest for the trees and the lay of the land in general. So a lot of times in this, it's being proposed that the density amendment that Salisbury Town Center put forth November 2023 and was denied by the Planning and Zoning Board, they are now going to go to Planning and Zoning as of tomorrow. But the request has now just been to, instead of just changing the density rate for ourselves, is to change the density rate for all of downtown.
Everywhere.
But the Planning and Zoning, if I may, I quote the actual determination met by their denial said that failure to meet all criteria in 17.232.020 Bravo, specifically item 2, the location size and design and operation characteristics under the proposal will have minimal adverse impact on the livability value or appropriate development of abutting properties in the surrounding area. So basically it was determined that this, for one single project, that this was not appropriate to the infrastructure that was in place. And that was what the experts determined a year ago. Now they have slightly altered their approach and they would like to change the rules for everyone, making it seem as though it's not just for them. But the problem with that is that you still haven't amended your business plan.
Right.
And so when you're effectively running a business, you respond to the market needs and demands. And part of that is the regulations in place. And we all believe in those regulations around housing. You know, fair housing is super necessary. And ADA, the Critical Area Commission is going to weigh in on this if it goes past the planning and zoning. And so all of, that is what's beautiful about our system is there is a lot of there's a process. People trying to do a petition to change planning and zoning determination is not the process, right?
No, it's not.
So that's my greatest concern is that, we just have people that have not, there are experts and that have weighed in on this and that we're just disregarding that. And then something like Mead and Hunt, they're a consultant company.
Yeah.
Consultant companies are like lawyers. They are hired guns. They will go after and do whatever they can within the bounds of those regulations, but that doesn't mean that they're considering the full context. They're hired to do a purpose, and
that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. So a consultant company is not the experts I want to listen to. It's the Planning and Zoning Commission that's citing actually our municipal code as to how this doesn't abide by the established rules. Trying to change the rules, regardless of whether just for this one proposal or if you pivot everybody's focus and move the goalpost and then say that, oh, well, we're doing this for everyone. And it's but regardless, we don't have in place, what we need in order to make this a success for everyone. And, parking is one issue, but there are the environmental concerns and there's just the general, I think about as someone who's in property management, you have to think about, the infrastructure and where you're going in 5 years and what's going to need to be replaced upon the way. And in this building proposal, there's no the company is not like offering to take on that burden. That's where the city,
They want the taxpayer to absorb that.
they want to, yeah, they want the taxpayers to pay that. And it's just like, to me, if people at the city were savvy and business acumen, then they would have made a recursion clause that if like the developer did not keep their word on the approved proposal, that they would have reverted control to the city, because it's like that was the terms of the deal. But if you didn't put that in writing, then they can do whatever they want, which is the situation we're in now. And so that situation, to me, if people are claiming that they're experts, but then they're making an amateur hour mistake of not putting a recursion clause in, that disavowal of responsibility is just a typical political maneuver.
Okay.
And it just, doesn't speak highly of the people that are making such arguments.
So this now, it goes to the appellate level. And that hearing has no timetable so far. Is that correct?
As far as that, I have not heard of one.
Yeah. I don't think normally they do that. I think they operate at their own timeline. One of the questions involving this that has been probably overlooked more than any other thing is the environmental impact. How do you view that?
Well, I mean, I'm from the shore. I'm from Princess Anne.
Mm-hmm.
I do care about the Chesapeake Bay. Since I was young, I've been in, that's what Maryland schools trained me to do, was to think about, the environmental impact. We have not technically, I guess, in the process, if they got approving from planning and zoning, then the critical area commission has to weigh in. But what I'm concerned about is by circumnavigating like typical procedures, such as the determination of planning and zoning and the circuit court, I'm worried about them trying to circumnavigate the critical areas commission and their weigh in. There's definitely huge concerns with that, with that waterway. I mean, it's a major tributary for the bay. It definitely impacts things down, and you can ask any waterman.
Yeah, they do know, don't they? How long have you been involved with this? I mean, I know this is somewhat of a recent occurrence. I guess after was it circuit or district court that rendered their first opinion? I guess I
started getting more involved with local things when, not this year, but the prior year, spring 2023, when we had that $50 million budget shortfall.
Yeah.
And once I heard about that, I started definitely paying more attention. I was paying attention generally because of the industry I was in, working for Habitat for Humanity.
Okay.
And the general lay of the land around housing with that. But then I started paying more attention, as that, because it's like, well, this doesn't seem like good stewardship, of public assets. And that does concern me. My grandfather was town commissioner in Princess Anne when I was growing up as a boy, so I guess I had this behavior modeled as far as being involved, to where that just seems like your civic duty, you know what I mean, to speak up when you see something that's amiss. And it's like, again, it's not really about any one side or one person having all answers, but we'll get a higher fidelity, a better return on public investment when like there's more voices and there's more of that collaborative effort to where we look at the vested interests and we weigh those. And it doesn't have to be an all or nothing, kind of determination, but it can be a case. We need to look at things case by case rather than picking teams, especially in the local context.
I'm absolutely certain you're right. For people watching this, and this will air later tonight and then tomorrow, what is it you urge them to do to become involved with this? To show up at the P&Z meeting tomorrow? I know there are petitions on both sides that are circulating. What would be your advice to them?
I believe that it's just journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. I just encourage everybody to lower that bar of their expectations. When I have community conversations in the community with different people and different facets of life, they often feel not qualified or that they need to have some kind of expertise themselves. But it's like, again, in that the idea is, of our government in general that is brilliant is that we're not run by tyrants. We don't need a lone genius, like Einstein to be the architect of every city plan. We can actually work together and communicate. So to me, it's getting involved as soon as possible. And at this point, it's like show up and support. But if you don't feel fully qualified, that's okay on this issue. I generally speak up on issues. This is not my first time speaking up on something in the community. And it's like I pick issues that are germane or relevant to me or that I feel qualified to speak on for a number of different reasons. But I encourage everyone to do that. I'm planning to work with a local organization actually to bring a uh, media literacy course so that people are able to do more of their own fact checking.
Right, right.
People able to think for themselves, and I think that's one of the biggest things is like think for your, it's not like so my encouragement to people in general is just get involved, right? And that can look at, you can start by attending city council meetings. Planning and zoning meets 4 times a year. You can get involved in, in a board or volunteering. It's really like, to me, it's people know what matters to them. You know what care looks like. So take care with something that actually matters. You won't follow through if you're doing the right thing. You need to do what you care about, what people actually value, and that's where we're going to get a good return from people, because whether or not people have the same values, I know plenty of people working on issues that don't pertain to me, but I respect highly the work that they're doing in our community, because it's like, because that is their experience and they are qualified to be working on these issues. I think of like veterans issues, not my experience, but very proud of people in our community that are helping around those issues, because like there's just, we're all different and we all have value and we all have different values and we all can have a say. And in that, I think like that's what's missing when we just default to sides or trusting people that we feel we know. And it's like, what we need to do is greater level of people being able to communicate with other people in the community, people gaining those skills and being able to have the courage of their convictions to stand by. And if people are wrong, like that's okay.
Yeah.
That's like perfectly acceptable. Like I say in my personal relationships, especially people who are very close to me, the people that are very close to me are people who are able to tell me, hey, I think you're wrong here, or hey, I think you're being premature here, or hey, I hear resentment in this sentiment, right?
Okay.
And those people help me grow and get a greater fidelity out of Michael. So I just believe it kind of works that way with our greater collective too, is that we don't need to rely on some single genius arbiter of anything. We don't need to rely solely on the expertise of self-proclaimed experts. We should be like working on ourselves to get a greater fidelity by like being able to discern, get involved, be critical thinkers ourselves. So like my part in that is just kind of equipping people with the tools. I can't tell people how to use them.
Right. Well, you apparently are now part of the movement to remove apagogical arguments from the mainstream. I think in Latin that is reductio ad argumentum, absurdum. Anyway, thank you so much for coming by today. I'd like to have you back another time and talk more about your work here in fallacies, in arguments, in discussions, and why it is that we must learn to identify false equivalencies, because we are facing them everywhere all the time, and a lot of people don't recognize them, and so they bite. They bite.
Nuance is, diminishing in our public discourse, and that is again that like we're just getting a lower quality result from it. Just does a disservice to everyone.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you for your time.
Again, thank you for coming by. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael Lankford. This is Eastern Shore Politics. I want you to be engaged. I want you to be erudite in the way arguments are being made. Tune in and go to social media and look for Michael Lankford. Let me guess, you will be happy that you did. Thank you, namaste, and I'll see you on down the road, partner.